Class 12 English A Roadside Stand Question and Answers Part 2 13. What will be the great relief for the poet? Ans. To see the poor villagers folk out of their pain and poverty will be of great relief for the poet. 14. Why did the city folk one turn out of sorts? Ans. The flashy traffic passed by the roadside stand with a mind just to go ahead of all the speedy traffic. One city folk stopped at one side for a moment sometime. But the city dweller turned out of sorts soon at having the landscape spoiled by the ruralities with the artless painting and wrong-turned writing of N or S in the signboard. 14. How does the traffic pass? Ans. The traffic refers to the showy and flashy vehicles of the city folk. The polished traffic passes by the roadside stand shop with an intention to go only ahead. It shows complete indifferent attitude towards the poor displayment. Although any city folk stops in the landscape for a moment shows anger with a bitterness. 15. What are being sold in that roadside stand? Ans. The poor village folk want to retard their poverty by selling some ordinary things. So, the roadside stand offers the wild berries, collected from the wild forest in wooden measuring pots. The golden-colored gourds with bent necks are also displayed for scale. These are all too ordinary to catch the eye of city folk. 16. Why do the people running the roadside ask for some city money? Ans. The poor village people lead a life of monotony and grinding poverty. Their hands are today empty. They have almost forgotten the touch of money. So, running the roadside stand, the ruralities ask for some city money to feel in their empty hands and to retard their poverty. 17. Who has betrayed the village people and how? Ans. The village people have been the victims of corruption, domination, exploitation and deception since long. The greedy but so-called good doers and generous city people have betrayed the villagers with some false promises and teaching. For instance, they teach the villagers to sleep at night but they sleep all the day disturbing the villagers in sleeping. 18. What is in the news? Ans. One news is spread wide about the poor village folk. The news I.e. frequently heard is that the merciful poor relatives will be exploited from their dwelling place. After exploitation they will be asked to live in their original villages next to the cinema hall or storehouse. There, they won't have to think of them, instead the city people will think. 19. What do the people wait all day long for? Ans. The poverty-stricken people sit mournfully near by the open windows of the roadside stand and long for money. They wait all the day long hours for customers. But their longing is childish, because no customer comes there. Still the people wait in prayer for the sound of brake and stopping car. 20. Who will soothe the rural poor out of their wits and how? Ans. The greedy and hunting city people put on mask of flattery to soothe the complaining voice of the rural poor. The city people use the villagers' innocence and ignorance for own sake. They assure the poor of a better life with some false promises. The ruralities are convinced and the city people enforce their own benefits. 21. What was the plea of the folk who had put up the roadside stand? Ans. The ruralities had put up the roadside stand asking for some of the city money. The flashy city traffic passed by the shop with an indifferent attitude towards it. On the contrary, the poor folk pled the passerby very pathetically for some of the city money that kept the city beautiful. 22. Where was the roadside stand built and how? Roadside stand was built beside a busy highway at the distance from the city in a landscape with a beautiful mountain view. It was built extending the little old house with a new shed in the front. The new shed was a roadside stand for selling the farmer's products. 3. What is the vain childish longing? Ans, the poor childish shopkeeper waits there in the open window of the shop for the whole day. He sits and prays openly to hear the sound of a stopping car. A stopping car may be profitable for the poor. In fact, no one comes there. Still, he waits hopefully like a child baselessly. This longing is the vain childish longing. 24. What is the trusting sorrow of the ruralities? Uns, the ruralities have a trusting sorrow of which they don't speak themselves. They run a roadside shop to ask money from the city dwellers, but no one stops there. They ask the city people for a promise of a developed life, but no one stops to promise, so it is the trusting sorrow which they bear.